The development of a self-aware computer system is one of the most dangerous threats to modern galactic society. How organic and synthetic life would coexist, or whether they could coexist at all, has been an important philosophical question since the first steps were made towards creating an artificial intelligence. In the region of space controlled by the Citadel Council, such pursuits are now illegal, and violations of this principle are harshly dealt with. Those who question the necessity of these laws need only venture past the Perseus Veil, where 3 centuries ago, the Quarians were almost completely annihilated by an artificial species of their own design. Today, this region of space is forbidden, home to a cautionary tale feared across the galaxy. In the language of the Quarians, they were named the Servants of the People. Now they are simply known as the Geth. Superficially, the Geth resemble their Quarian creators, likely a remnant of their original purpose. They are completely synthetic, however, consisting of a flexible but extremely durable outer shell and artificial muscle tissue. A common design feature among the Geth is a single illuminated photoreceptor, typically located on their equivalent of a head. Over their history, the Geth have evolved into numerous subtypes, specialized constructs ranging from the diminutive but extremely agile Geth hoppers to the far larger Geth colossus. Each Geth, regardless of its model, is made up of hundreds of programs roughly equivalent to the virtual intelligences used by the organic races of the galaxy. These programs work in parallel with one another to form a kind of emergent intelligence. An individual Geth construct is more akin to a mobile platform than an actual body. The programs that make up its consciousness are endlessly transferred and downloaded, and might reside in the equivalent of a Geth infantryman before being transferred to become the mind of an entire starship as required. When not in use, Geth programs reside in enormous server hubs, functioning as their equivalent to an organic city. Within these server hubs, millions of Geth are linked in communion. The defining attribute of the Geth is this powerful neural network. The entire species utilizes a kind of communal processing power. An individual Geth construct might process only a basic intelligence on par with animal instincts, but the more Geth present in a given area, the greater their capacity for higher reasoning and complex thought. Groups of Geth can analyze situations and make tactical decisions as well as any organic race. The Geth's ability to communicate their exact thoughts and ideas flawlessly to one another without any fear of misinterpretation has led to the development of a society with no traditional form of government or delegation of authority. When matters concerning the Geth must be decided upon, the entire species communicates all viewpoints until a consensus is made. Invariably, whatever action most benefits the Geth as a whole is the one taken. Most importantly, lies, deceptions, and manipulations are impossible among the Geth, although they are not above employing them against other species. The Geth pursue function above form. They find it more efficient to exist in space stations drawing resources from asteroids rather than typical planetary settlements. Together with their starships, these often feature limited gravity, a complete lack of windows, and a limited atmosphere or climate control. As perhaps the only synthetic life form in the galaxy, the Geth are reclusive and secretive. Since their creation, they have chosen to remain within the protection of the Perseus Veil, a dense nebula that cloaks their activities. As they do not share the same goals, needs, or instincts as biological species, they rarely interact with other civilizations and relentlessly destroy any trespassers in their territory. Despite this apparent hostility, the Geth primarily seek the peaceful advancement of their own race, free from the influence of galactic society, and believe every sentient species should be able to do the same. They have made repeated attempts to observe and understand organics, hoping to avoid any future conflict. In wartime, however, the Geth are especially dangerous. Their mechanical nature makes them ideal ambushers, requiring neither sleep, food, or relief. Geth forces can shut down their power sources to stay undetected, lying in wait for days, weeks, and perhaps even years until an opportunity presents itself. Phony distress signals are a tactic particularly favored by the Geth, ambushing any potential rescuers. Geth units show little sense of self-preservation and will expend as many units as may be required to take an enemy position. Geth routinely engage in seemingly suicidal actions, such as boarding a ship, engineering it to crash, and then remaining on board to ensure its destruction. When Geth shut down, their memory cores are destroyed and programs transferred elsewhere, preventing any Geth from being successfully captured for study, while ensuring its experiences, actions, and perhaps soul are kept intact. Geth warships number in the tens of thousands, including designs roughly equivalent to the dreadnoughts, cruisers, fighters, and dropships used by Citadel species. Since the Geth are not limited by the demands for rest, wages, or autonomy that would affect an organic workforce, their potential is constrained only by resources and time, allowing for the creation of such massive forces. At the time of their creation, however, the Geth were intended only to serve their Quarian masters as a cheap labor force. Designed to remain non-sentient, the Geth's networked intelligence eventually began showing signs of self-awareness. Alarmed at the increasingly unpredictable behavior of their synthetic workers, the Quarians attempted to shut them down. In what would become known as the Morning War, the Geth initially refused the order for self-termination, and eventually took steps to defend themselves when the Quarians began attacking them directly. Even at the height of the conflict, some Geth refused to abandon their loyalty to the Quarians, while many Quarians themselves argued that the Geth should be allowed to continue to exist. As the war progressed, these more moderate viewpoints were swept aside until finally, the Geth were able to achieve victory. Reduced to a mere fraction of their pre-war population, the Quarians fled their homes aboard a vast flotilla of starships, now known across the galaxy as the Migrant Fleet. While the Geth were more than capable of wiping out the remaining Quarians, they were wary of the ramifications of annihilating an entire species, especially their own creators. Instead, convinced the Quarians were no longer a threat, they allowed them to go in peace and retreated into isolation. Roughly 3 centuries after the Morning War, the Geth were contacted by an ancient entity that would later be known as Sovereign. A synthetic creature in many ways resembling the Geth, Sovereign offered advanced technology in exchange for attacking the Citadel, center of galactic society. The majority of the Geth dismissed the offer, but a small percentage had come to regard Sovereign as a god, the pinnacle of synthetic evolution. Expelled by the mainstream Geth, these heretics, as they came to be known, aided Sovereign in its attacks on Eden Prime and the Citadel before being largely wiped out by the Citadel fleet and Commander Shepard, the first human Spectre. Immediately curious with Shepard, the Geth commissioned a unique mobile platform roughly 11 times more capable than the standard Geth constructs. Later designated Legion, this platform would prove instrumental in bridging the divide between the Geth and the organic civilizations of the galaxy, perhaps laying the groundwork for a meaningful coexistence. The chance for a mutual understanding may have come too late. Sovereign was not the only one of its kind, and the Geth could become a powerful tool in their plans for the galaxy. The Quarians too have made moves to retake their homeworld, and evidence of the Geth's benevolence may not be enough to halt them. In the end, the fate of the Quarians, the Geth, and the entire galaxy may be decided by a single choice. The Templin Institute investigates alternate worlds and realities. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to directly support us, vote in polls to determine future topics, and receive some cool rewards, please consider pledging to our Patreon page.